Anyway, I'll do it. Thank you for letting me know. I don't know if I will be inspired because I'm agitated with the presentation tomorrow, but I'll try to do a good job here too if I can. Slideshow. No, something is wrong here. Nothing works. I don't understand what is happening. It's okay. Do you see Melnikov?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Scoateți poza, că nu vreau să te văd și pe tine în prezentare.
Pardon?
Nu, cu Ina am vorbit.
Okay. All right. So I begin with this very, very special architect who probably, if he didn't have the lack of chance to live, you know, under Stalin and so on, he would have built some more incredible buildings. But even so, some of his buildings are in the history of modern architecture. And he was, in some respects, an avant-garde architect. So I begin. He lived a long life, but more than 40 years, he didn't build. He was just a teacher in a school, earning a living and painting portraits, I understood. Okay, this is the gentleman. He looks a little bit sad, but as I said, he is present in any serious history of architecture, of modern architecture. You know, rather elegant, if I can say so. And, you know, at that time he was considered an aristocrat and a bourgeois. And in fact, this was an accusation given to him that he betrayed, you know, the people because he was, you know, he had, you know, cultured, you know, tendencies. And anyway, he was accused, yeah, of being a bourgeois. There is a book published by Preston called Solo Architect in a Mass Society. And we'll see what he did. He looks like a man who suffered, but a wise man, I think. And he obviously was wise if he was able to survive, actually. You know, when so many people in that regime didn't survive, he did. Even as a bourgeois, and you'll see his private house in Moscow is unbelievable. It is amazing that that house was not leveled. So Konstantin Melnikov was born to a peasant family in Moscow in 1890. Through the efforts of the engineers to whom he was apprenticed, he attended the Moscow School of Painting, Sculpture and Architecture. Again and again, the beautiful engineers who are generous, they were generous with the talent of this man. So because of them, he was able to study painting, sculpture, and architecture. Although he initially studied painting, when he entered the school in 1905, he studied architecture from 1912 until he completed his studies in 1917. So, some drawings. This is a project that was not built, but you'll see also a nice model of it. A pavilion, well, I don't know if I can call it a pavilion, some kind of a building for Leningrad Pravda. As some of his, you know, temperamental drawings, obviously he was a man who knew how to draw, and he had the force, and he had something to say. Yes, URSS everywhere, but he suffered. Anyway, there were a number of very interesting constructivists and artists and architects at that time, so much so that some of them continue to influence the architects today. Zaha Hadid, for example, was highly influenced by Malevich, and Chumi also was influenced by the constructivists. And so it was incredible that those people at the beginning of the 20th century were able to have such an echo even on the contemporary culture, architectonic culture. I think that revolution, the tension, the drama, the need to revolutionize everything and to create you know, a new society. This turmoil animated the sensitive people who the artists and the architects are supposed to be. So,
Could I interject? Zhukov was probably an inspiration to the constructivists as well.
Right, and in
So
fact,
it didn't come from a vacuum. But I wonder what inspired Zhukov.
Well, he did a project together with Melnikov, and I'll show it. I mean, he did a structure, and I think it will be a great occasion to talk on him on his birthday on the 28th of August. Great engineer. So this is a pavilion in Moscow from 1923. Some of his buildings were destroyed. It looks, poor in a way, and maybe it was to an extent, but you can still see, I mean, the building looks, poorly built and so on, but it still has courage in it, and there is the insinuation of some kind of aesthetical, breaking ground, so to speak. Look at that stair, spiraling right in, towards the, if we can call it, street, and the large announcement or wording on the facade, which was not commercial announcement, but rather political, I imagine. And the windows also show some kind of modernity, but it's a fragile building. It was a fragile building, and it was demolished, but not because it was fragile, but because who knows what. This is the model. So this was his. Before this, he did some kind of study as a junior architect, and then for a few years he did nothing, or nothing is shown on my sources, and then he built this. But even this early work is present in some histories of architecture. Now, from 1924 to 1925, he built this market, which was destroyed, but still a building, part of this market is still alive, the offices. And we are going to see the offices. This is the building. Maybe it doesn't look very impressive, but considering that it was built 100 years ago and still has a certain rhythm on the facade. And that round window is kind of a trademark for Melnikov, but he built in various ways. It's very unkept, of course, the building. So what we saw was actually the office of this market in Moscow, because the actual market was destroyed. Now a competition entry for the USSR pavilion of the Exposition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs et Industriels Modernes in Paris. This was a magnificent building, and we'll see it in detail, but this one destroyed as well. We'll come back to this. And this is strangely, this man, he was very sensitive and cultured and considered an aristocrat. He built more garages probably than any architect in the world. I mean, he built, I don't know, 5, 6 garages, and he even did an incredible project in Paris for a very interesting parking over the Seine, over a bridge. You'll see the project. So this was refurbished, but it doesn't look too special because maybe it's too refurbished. I don't know, maybe also some changes have occurred. You'll see the building. It's, maybe nothing very special, but it was done by Melnikov, and this is the plan. I guess you see I don't know exactly how the access of the cars happened. It was an early garage. You'll see others that were probably, I don't know, better from the point of view of function. Now, I was in trouble because I found with the same name 2 different buildings. So kind of in a hurry. I put both here. This might not be by him, or the other one might not be by him. On Google Images and so on, they both appear under the same name, but they are two different buildings. We have to be careful with the information from the net, because often I found inaccurate information. Anyway, we'll see this guy. We'll look at this garage too, although it might not be by him. But one of these two for sure is by him. But I'm not yet sure which one. And the more, this is the structure of the famous engineer Bruce. He did the structure for this building, and it does look astonishingly convincing, even for someone who doesn't know a lot about structures. But I can admire its simplicity and beauty, and also in a way its complexity. It's both simple and complex. Aesthetically, I look at it from this point of view, and looks very convincing. Yes, if you build a parking or a garage like this today, you'll be considered, almost innovative. Now, the Soviet Pavilion in Paris, this is probably the greatest building he built in 1925, and you'll see it. This is modern architecture at its best. It has rhythm, it has geometry, it has tension, it has even some kind of twisting, geometrical twisting, and you realize what I try to say when we see the plans. I think was brilliant, and this was about 3 years before Villa Savoie was built. I don't think Le Corbusier at that time was really much more innovative than Melnikov. And so at that time, the Soviet country wanted to assert itself as being innovative and forward-looking. Unfortunately, it didn't last for too long. But at that time, he was able to build this building. Now, if you build such a building today, you would not be ashamed of yourself. I think it's a very good and dynamic building, and I admire him for this work. You see, Exposition des Arts Décoratifs, Pavilion de République Soviétique. Interesting that it used the plural, the Republic, the republics, the Soviet republics, with a plural. I mean, if I compare it with the Pavilion Esprit Nouveau by Le Corbusier, this one is not at all less forward-looking. So you see the plan, and again, my obsession with the diagonals. I mean, that diagonal, creates a dynamic architectural experience and configuration that we can only applaud, I think. Yeah, 1925. He did a lot of competitions, but he lost almost all of them. Maybe he was also sabotaged, because at that time he was considered the enemy of the people, or something like this, to use the title of the great Norwegian playwright Henrik Ibsen. I encourage everybody here to read The Enemy of the People, because it is a beautiful, beautiful play about the dangers that authenticity faces in society in general, and maybe at all times. It is about a doctor who wants to avert, to tell the town he was living in that there was the possibility for a virus, and nobody believes him, and they think he was a madman or a charlatan, when in fact he wanted to tell the truth. But unfortunately, the truth is not easily accepted by most people. So he was considered the enemy of the people, when in fact he was almost a saint, if I can say so. I love Henrik Ibsen. You know, now today is the day of the Scandinavians. I talked to Nina with Ina about Stockholm and Malmö. Now I think of Henrik Ibsen. Anyway, back to another man of the north in a way. You know, Konstantin Melnikov, north and east. This is the model of his pavilion, and I like the tension between two buildings that are connected through the stairway, and you know, you have this slice, the rift. You have everything that you need to feel, you know, inside it. I don't know about those works behind him. Maybe the graphic works were his, but I hope that round thing was not his. At first, I thought it was Marcel Duchamp, but probably not. Anyway, so this is, I think, if not the most interesting building that he built, one of the most interesting. He didn't build actually so much. All his building activity happened in 10 years, between kind of 30 and 40. And then the following years, I said, he was painting portraits and teaching. This is the project. Maybe he won a competition with it. But you see, this project, even by the standards of today, looks very, you know, modern, so to speak, and innovative. It's not very clear, the picture, but I think you can still see something. Okay, now it's a factory club. You know, they were building clubs for the, you know, for the workers. And unfortunately, I don't think I have pictures with this one. I do. I'm confused because I was confused because there are two factory clubs that he proposed, but this one was built. This one is not bad with those two diagonal stairs, and it has a certain monumentality and also a certain modernism still. This is a little bit more official somehow than the Pavilion in Paris, but it's still a good building, I think. And I'm glad that it's not destroyed. I don't know about that canopy there, but that certainly didn't belong to him or to his project. But the Russians took care of this building, and that's good. I mean, I look at it and I don't think it's inferior to Dudok, you know, the great Dutch architect, the father of modernism in the Netherlands. Now you see another workers' club. I think he proposed more than three. This is also very famous by him. So many histories of modern architecture have this monumental club, as it was called. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a little bit too monumental, but it still has the power of modernity, and it is convincing indoors and outdoors. Especially in black and white, I think is a little more dramatic somehow. And again, the two stairs, you know, symmetrically positioned, but still dynamic. I understood he didn't like theory and he didn't care to have followers. So, you know, he retired in his privacy, in his very interesting villa, his own house that is also manifest in architecture and modern architecture, and you'll see it soon. So here you can see the plan and the section, you know, rotated of this workers' club.
Dan, can I ask a question? Can I interrupt you?
Please.
What I see in many of these buildings, the Western buildings, as well as I think in Bauhaus, the windows, they don't have any weather shade. The glass is right on the surface. So don't they have problems when it rains? I mean, many of these buildings, they don't have any overhangs or weather shades.
Well, I guess you know they you know I guess they I don't know. I mean you know are you referring to the rain, to the danger of having the water enter through the glass into the building?
Yes.
Well,
The previous building you showed, that had absolutely no weather protection.
well, I mean, do you need that weather protection? I mean, if the window is well built, you know, I mean, I understand if you are referring to the, you know, to bring in some shade and to protect, you know, kind of the interior from too much sun. But in terms of the rain to you know, I don't know. I mean, you know, such buildings have been built for more than a century all over the world. So I don't know. I'll think about this. I don't know. Anyway,
Okay, thanks.
well, thank you for thanking me. I didn't really say anything, you know, enlightening. Anyway, okay, let me continue. So yeah, it's a good architecture. You know, you look at the plan, you look at the section. It's convincing. It has three parts. It has diagonals. It is clear. I think it is fine. Then you know, another workers club, and this one is less spectacular. You know, maybe you know he had more and more difficulties to accept his avant-garde aesthetics. So this is beginning to be a little bit on the dull side. But what can you do? Another factory club. These workers really danced and played music and whatever. This was not built, but no, it was built. This is the model. What can I say? It's fine. It's you know, here it is. Fine, maybe not so special. Just like the car in front of it. It's, you know, Russian car that copies a Fiat. That's it. Okay, now this we arrive at another major building by him, his own residence, and thank God it was not leveled by the proletarians. So the bourgeois was allowed to live in this house, very special house. Although it's possible that at one moment was destined to be leveled, or anyway, someone wrote SOS on the facade around the window. I don't know, it was either some kind of an artwork or it meant help me because they want to destroy me. This is the building, and you can imagine, you know, I mean, I don't know if Stalin knew it, but you know, this could be indeed an irritation to the eye of a dictator who wants white columns and some kind of so-called classical architecture. I don't know if you know, you probably know that at the competition for the Palace of the Soviets, Le Corbusier participated too. And of course he didn't win because the chosen project was one with Greek columns and so on. Although the Russians themselves had great architects, you know, kind of avant-garde architects. Now, I don't know. This is a strange picture because you have the feeling that it was either wrongly photoshopped, that table, you know, sits on the bed, but it doesn't. I guess it's in front of the bed. But you know, anyway, the photographer was not very skillful. This was the bedroom of Konstantin Melnikov, and this was his studio, and not bad at all. I mean, you know, I wouldn't mind having such a studio, which was maybe also his living room. I don't know, but the building is special. And you'll see in the plan, there are two interlocking circles, so two interlocking cylinders. So even its symbolism is worth contemplating, like the two circles that also intertwine in Carlos Carpa's work at the Brion Cemetery. A fine, luminous interior and quite conducive, I think, to dreaming in a bourgeois way, as opposed to a proletarian way. Anyway, yes, a unique building. I mean, you know, this house is still a unique house. And I see some large canvases there, so I guess, you know, he was very dedicated to painting. This is, you know, rotated picture of the house and another picture from inside. You know, I'm sure many artists who love to have such an interior, including myself. Okay, and here is the architect, I think, sitting on that chaiselong or whatever it is. So he was trapped in his, you know, own creation for 40-something years, and yeah, the, you know, the sadness of history. And you look at the plans, you know. Yeah, I'm surprised that this house was able to escape the bulldozer. As also surprising is that he himself escaped the bulldozer, so to speak. Stalin's gentle leveling, flattening of people. What is even more strange is that actually, apparently, Stalin wrote poetry. So the dictator was also a poet. Can you believe it? Can you believe a dictator being a poet, or a poet, especially a poet, being a dictator? Strange things are happening in the world. How could a poet continue to write poetry after, you know, provoking the death of millions of people? It's beyond me. I don't understand. Anyway, it's not the only thing I don't understand. But the building is interesting. And it's also rather opulent, no? I mean, look at it. It has several rooms and, you know, 3 floors. And, it's nice. The good life in Moscow. The back view. It's probably one of the most interesting houses in Moscow, and not just in Moscow. It deserves attention. And so different from that pavilion he built in Paris. So obviously he had a very large palette, so to speak, or repertoire of means of expression. This one I couldn't find pictures, sorry. And then another garage, I told you, now we'll see several garages, but this one is not bad. No, it's not this one, it's another one, maybe the next one. This is like a horseshoe, as you can have a, you know, kind of the intuition of looking at this small resolution picture. You see a little bit better here. You know, the fact that he wanted to do architecture with such a prosaic function or program shows that he was actually a born architect, because a born architect, that's what he does. You know, it doesn't matter what you give, what program, what functions. A good architect still wants to create architecture with whatever program. And this facade is not bad. This, you don't actually have the, you know, the intuition of the horseshoe shape, but it's still, I think, even though it's symmetrical, it's I think it's okay. This is the model, you know, quite a big garage, and it's still up. Quite big, yes. Another garage. I just don't believe it. This man who studied painting and who practiced painting and he looked like a sensitive thinker and he had to build garages. But I read that actually Michelangelo, who wanted in his modesty to carve a mountain, his job, first job was to carve a snowman. Now, I don't know if that information is very accurate, but that's what I read. And, you know, it's the sarcasm of nature, you know, or of fate, not of nature, of fate. You want to carve a mountain, but at first you just do a snowman. You are humbled by fate. That's what I'm trying to say. Here it is another building by him. I imagine mainly the building, the one on the right with a big circle. He loved the circle, obviously. And the diagonals, of course, the ramps. Now this is a nice picture. They had incredible artists and photographers and filmmakers too. If we are to think of Eisenstein and Siga Bertov, my God, what a period in the history of well, Russia and Soviet Union. Another garage, but this one is interesting and is monumental, and you would not expect it to be a garage. I mean, from far away, maybe it doesn't look so spectacular, but look from here. The drama of the circle yeah, you cannot pass by this building without having trepidation to an extent. That architecture is provoking you. Not so much the little building on the left, but that was not done by him. And so the garage is telling you, well, between the garage and the temple, maybe it's not such a big distance. After all, the king of the present is housed in this house, meaning in the garage. And that king, of course, is the car. Its Majesty, the car. That very car that Kenneth Frampton said that destroyed the earth and destroyed the cities and so on. But maybe he was in a pessimistic mode. No, but the car, yes. I mean, we talk about pollution. Well, the cars have their beautiful contribution to the pollution. And also, I mean, the consequences of the car in life are, besides the fact that we can run away from one place to another, it has problems. After all, the Larkin building, one of the masterpieces of Frank Lloyd Wright, was leveled in order to build a parking lot. Unbelievable. But this this garage, you know, rescues the garage function from you know, the misery of prose and shows that it's possible to arrive at some kind of architectonic poetry. Not of the most modest kind, I recognize, but I find it interesting. So that, you know, poor Melnikov, he tried to assert his creativity as an architect, even working with garages. And you'll see towards the end, his project for Paris, also for a parking above a bridge, which was also brilliant and interesting. Okay, some competition entries. We are approaching the end. He did several competitions, and he as far as I know, he won none. I mean, he didn't have the wisdom of Frank Lloyd Wright, who said, I'll never take part in a competition, because how is a committee of mediocrities going to understand my work? That's what Frank Lloyd Wright said, and he didn't have to do competitions because he had 1,000 commissions. Now, it's not very, this is the only picture I found with the sarcophagus meant for the mausoleum for Lenin. But, you know, in this unclear way, you can still kind of discern a certain sensitivity. But yes, it's very difficult to read. Anyway, And it was to be a part of a larger project. This is also not very modest, but then we are talking about Lenin, right? So was supposed to be a significant architectonic gesture. He didn't win. And there is a Zeppelin, I think, flying or floating in the air. Sure, why not? And then a competition entry for the Moscow bureau of the newspaper Leningrad Pravda, which you saw a drawing of, and now you see the model, and it's not bad. I mean, too bad it was not built, but even as a model is it's interesting, and I think, you know, if it would have been built, it would have been, you know, I think a good building, an interesting building. This is the drawing, the facade of this building, and you see he was not the only one, but at that time, you know, the artists and the sculptors and the architects who promoted kind of a modern, new form of aesthetics. They combined graphic arts with the building. You had the big numbers and letters written diagonally, just as the Bauhaus did. So there was an attempt to rejuvenation. Now this is he did this for a monument of Christopher Columbus in Santo Domingo in 1929. This is also not bad. I mean, it is certainly not a very, very modest and reticent building, but I mean, maybe Columbus, Christopher Columbus would have been happy to see that something like this was built to him as if he was the savior of the world, if not God himself. Well, there is a certain kind of, you know, pathos in Russian or Soviet culture or architecture in this case that shows itself through from time to time, but not in all cases. Like the Andrei Tarkovsky, the great film director, didn't really have this kind of rhetorics. Now a competition entry for the palace of the Soviets, and he lost to Boris Yofan and Vladimir Shukov. It was never built, but I only found two images, both a little bit unclear, and I apologize. But you can still see some kind of architecture a la Paolo Soleri in Arcosanti in Arizona. This is what he proposed, the dreamer that Konstantin Melnikov was. And another competition for this building, which is a little bit unclear what's going on, but again, it's not a very modest building. I think he was beginning to become less and less patient. He wanted to build and he wanted to express. And unfortunately, from my own experience, I can say that when you want very much something, I mean, truly, you give your soul and your heart and everything. Fate is sometimes laughing sarcastically at you and you don't win. I mean, you can tell this is an exasperated bourgeois architect who wants to build for the people, but the people do not want to build what he proposes. So, you know, the power of the people chose another project. And two parking garages in Paris. This one is interesting, and it kind of connects with that pavilion of Soviet Union in Paris in 1925. Very modern, but what is not modern and is kind of interesting is, you know, those two supports on the left and on the right, the giant human beings that support, you know, the two sides of the building, and in a way connects with the aesthetics of the Parisian bridges, but a very unconventional and courageous gesture. The architecture itself is dynamic and modern and audacious, but then, you know, he brings in figuration figurative art and at a very monumental scale, you can imagine. I mean, those human beings are as tall as the existing bridge. There are some studies for this is not very clear to me because the building is not square, but I found these diagrams, I think, connected with this project. It is not very clear to me in what way. Another cryptical drawing related to this competition entry or proposal that he made for Paris for, again, parking or a garage. And you see, project garage for for 1,000 vehicles, 1929. It was not built, of course, but it would have been quite a quite an addition to the Parisian, architectural landscape. So this drawing was done recently. I don't know, in a school of architecture or by an architect. Maybe, I don't know, they might want to build it somewhere, maybe in China, I don't know, but it is an interesting project. It was not built. And you see a few images of the model. It was an interesting architect, an innovative architect, you know. Who would have done a bridge like this? And this is the last image I have. You see at the bottom Konstantin Melnikov, but it's not very clear to me. It is a garage in Paris, but the building doesn't seem to have anything to do with a square. I see a square here, but I like this image just as a graphic work, and so I thought to end this presentation on Melnikov, who was born on July 22nd, but in the Julian calendar, not in the Gregorian calendar. So his actual birthday would be on the 3rd of August. Thank you very much. Today I didn't make any advertising, so this explains a little bit that we are 7 people instead of 8. I'm joking a little bit, but I don't think too many people paid homage to Melnikov today, and we did. So if you have any, anything to say, or if not, then I'll I don't know. I'm waiting for you if you have any comments.
Dan?
Yes?
Hello, it's Azar. How are you doing?
Azar, hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for your very good presentation. I must confess, I didn't know his work at all. It is very interesting how solid his architecture is. How about his paintings? Are his paintings, he's doing, you did say that he does portrait painting. Are his portrait paintings kind of as solid as his architecture? How does that work?
Well, it's a very legitimate question that you have, and I regret that I was unable to add some images with his paintings. I think it would have been nice to also see his paintings. You are right. And maybe on the 3rd of August, when his true birthday will be, we'll make another presentation with also some other works and paintings too. Yes, it would be nice to see his paintings. Strangely, I did search for drawings, but no painting showed up. So I don't know, maybe it was that period of time when, although I understood his large archive is still in that building where he lived. I imagine some paintings too. I don't know how he painted.
Okay.
But it's, I guess it's very easy to find out, you know, if you search. I didn't search for some strange reason, although usually I do when there is an artist and an architect. But this time I just searched for drawings and buildings, and I almost forgot about the paintings.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
well,
I think he
will
had
search for
some sculptures as well. They
He did
might be.
sculptures as well.
Yeah. He was a sculptor.
He studied some sculpture too. Yes. No, I think he was a very interesting man, and it's unfortunate that he couldn't build some more interesting buildings. But even so, we are talking about him, even on the wrong day. So, anyone else wants to say something? Because if you don't, then I will, excusing myself, I will retire to Sir Richard Rogers, for whom I have to prepare. And it's so hard because he made so many buildings, and it's hard to decide. I cannot present all of them. It's impossible. I will need 700 pictures, if not 1,000. So I have to choose, and tomorrow we'll have a very, very special guest. I prepared an announcement. Some of you maybe received it. So tomorrow we'll have the chance to have with us here on the Zoom platform the engineer who worked with Sir Richard Rogers for the Lloyd's building in London and for the center, Austrian Cultural Center in New York. A very narrow and tall, of course, a skyscraper in Manhattan. A very important engineer, American engineer. I am not exaggerating. This gentleman was the director of the OVE Arup America. We are talking about the largest and the best engineering, structural engineering firm in the world. So he was the leading, the director of OVE Arup America. He was also the director of the Architectural League in New York City. He taught at Princeton and so on. So for some reason, he accepted my invitation tomorrow. He will be here. So I invite you, if you have time, to attend, because I think he will say some interesting things. He knew personally Sir Richard Rogers. He knew personally Raymond Abraham. And so he will talk about them and about their collaboration for these very important buildings. One in London, one in New York City. So Michaela, please make a big announcement. Yes, that's the spirit, and send it to the 4 cardinal points, to the east, to the west, to the north, and to the south, to millions and millions of people who are condemned to their solitude because of the pandemic, to all come here. No more than 100, because I have a limited, I can only receive 100 people. For a time, I bought an additional plan for to have 500, but then when I saw only about 10, 15 people, I said, why am I paying for 500? So I got rid of it. But who knows? Maybe after tomorrow, when I'll see that we did have 250 people on the 31st of May. When there was there was Stephen Hall here, and Wolf Prix, and other famous architects. So 250 people came, and at that time I was the doorman, because I didn't know Zoom. I just began. I didn't know that Zoom has this ability to get rid of the waiting room. So there was a waiting room, and I saw people flooding Zoom. And so I had to let them in. And for each group, either 2 people, 5 people, 10 people, I have to handle the door, so to speak. So I was very, very busy and nervous, because nothing really worked technically. But yes, 250 people. Can you imagine? Anyway, but tomorrow, we are not going to have 250 people unless the great engineer will invite all the other great engineers that know him. But he knows a lot about architecture. It's incredible. I mean, he worked with the most known contemporary architects, you know, with Peter Eisenman, with Hiller and Scofidio, with Sir Richard Rogers. He worked with Peter Rice, the genius in structures. And so he will be with us tomorrow. He confirmed. Yes.
Sorry, I don't know. If
I don't hear anything. I don't hear anything. That microphone is not good. I know, technology always leaves us.
now you can hear me.
No, sorry. The gods of audition are against us now. Sorry. I'm really sorry, but who knows? Please try it without a microphone, with some, you know, more.
Microphone, now you hear me.
No. No, it's not meant to be. You know, sometimes what can you do? It's not meant to be. What can you do?
On the phone to talk about.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
You can hear me.
Yes, please talk on the phone. You know.
Talk on the phone, on the number of the phone.
Okay, it's fine.
I want
Okay.
to ask you something. If you are,
No. I'm beginning to hear. Please try again. And plus, you see, once people heard your voice, they are flooding in. You see, we got 2 or 3 more people because they've heard you. So please talk.
So, if you agree, you send tomorrow the recording you make and let me to put on YouTube. Unfortunately, on my canal.
Okay, we'll do something, but not with my name. I don't want to have anything to do with. Just we'll change a name. I'll find another name. You know, plus minus Ion or something. Not my name.
My name, but I put there the announcement. With a link
Okay.
on Zoom and architectural marathon every day now.
Right. Okay, and have another illusion and delusion that people will be so madly interested that I'll have to buy again that maddening plan with 500, if not 1,000, you know, participants. I don't know. If we are 10 enthusiasts, that's fine. You know, better 10 enthusiasts than 1,000 indifferent people. Anyway, sorry, I have to go because I have to get ready for tomorrow. I cannot make a fool of myself in front of this great engineer.
Okay,
You know?
we agree. Thank you very much.
Okay, I thank you. Bye, Vatsal. Bye, Ina. Bye,
Bye.
Georgia. Bye, Fran.
Bye.
Jessica. Bye,
Bye.
Bogdan. Okay, see you tomorrow at 6.
Bye.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye, Ina. Thank you. Bye.